Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me reasonably loudly? Yeah, all right, David. Item 1 is apologies for absence, please, Eddie.
Thank you, Chairman. I've received apologies from Councillor Mark Gordon. Just for everyone at home, Councillor Fitzgerald is attending via Zoom.
Thank you. As I say, welcome to the meeting. It's good to see everybody again tonight. It's nice to be in the chamber. And we've got a very interesting agenda before us, and really looking forward to our representatives here who are going to be speaking to us tonight. We've also got Tim Fitzgerald, who's online. So he is actually attending. Item 3 are the minutes, to confirm and sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of June 2021, which everybody should have. Are you in agreement with the minutes, members? Sorry, Emma Jo.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, there are the minutes. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I don't think we're going to get to that.
The minutes. Oh, we had one after that. We had one in June. That was my first one in June. There we are, June. There we are.
In fact, actually, no.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Eddie. Okay. Turn now to item 4, declarations of interest. Members are invited to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests and non-pecuniary interests they may have with respect to matters which are to be considered at this meeting. Members who consider they may have an interest are invited to consult the monitoring officer or the Democratic Services officer, obviously prior to the meeting. Does anybody have anything to declare an interest on? No, thank you. Now turning to item 5, which is Accent Housing, to receive a presentation from Holly Shepherd, the contract manager, Accent Housing, and this is going to be done by Zoom members.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Thanks, Rodney. I'll just share my screen and then let me know when you can see it. Okay, can everyone see that okay? Thanks, Tim. The thumbs up. Okay, so thank you, Vivian. So my name's Holly Shepherd and I'm the contract manager for Accent Housing. So my role is basically to have responsibility for the delivery of the repairs and maintenance services for the South region. I will just give you a little overview of Accent Housing. So apologies for anyone who might have seen this part of the presentation before, but I think there might be a few faces at the meeting who haven't. So I'll just cover that for you quickly and then go on to give you an update on the current repairs performance. So Accent is a social housing provider. We've got 20,000 properties across the country, starting up in the northeast and ending up down in the south with us in Camberley. In the south region, we've got just over 4,000 homes. Predominantly, these are in Surrey, but we also have homes in Hampshire, Kent and Sussex as well. The majority of our stock, 80%, is in Surrey Heath Borough Council, and this is due to a stock transfer which took place from Surrey Heath Borough Council in 1993. At that stage, we became Accent Peerless, and eventually, as we are now, Accent Group in 2006. So in terms of the repair service at Accent, in the South region, we carry out roughly 12,000 repairs to our properties every year. And as some of you may know, performance isn't quite where we would like it to be at the moment, and I'll go into the reasons for that in a minute later on. But just as a bit of an overview for you, we had a new contractor start with us in 2016, which feels like it's going back a way now, which unfortunately didn't work out. And we instructed a temporary contractor, Central Heating Services, in 2018 to help us manage what was a large outstanding number of repairs. This temporary contractor lasted until 2019 when we instructed Axis Europe, who is our current repairs contractor. So they've been with us about 18 months now. We have a separate gas contractor who manages all of our heating and hot water repairs, and that's a contractor called TSG, and I'll give you an update on them as well later on. So just to go into a bit more detail for you in terms of the recent history of the repairs service, it has been quite a challenging time for us in terms of contractor turnover, which unfortunately has led to a less than desirable level of service for customers. When CHS handed over the reins to Axis in 2019, they did leave behind, unfortunately, quite a large number of outstanding legacy repairs, which Axis agreed to take on for us. They managed to get these completed by March 2020, which was a positive achievement for them, considering they were taking on all new repairs coming into the service as well. Unfortunately, just as we achieved this milestone of clearing all of our backlog of repairs from the old contractor, COVID hit, as we all know, and we went into lockdown in March 2020. At this time, we reverted to an emergency only repairs service. So we, in effect, put a pause on all routine non-emergency repairs, and that lasted for 8 weeks. We slowly started to remobilise the routine repairs service from May in 2020, and were fully remobilised, carrying out all routine repairs by September. Unfortunately, this then created a further backlog of outstanding works. As you can imagine, 8 weeks worth of routine repairs did create quite a lot of work that we had to then pick up after lockdown, unfortunately. Axis, during lockdown, furloughed nearly all of their staff, all direct labour operatives and most of their back office admin team as well, which had a significant impact on their ability to schedule the works and plan for how they were going to reduce the backlog of orders. Axis's staff all came back and they were fully remobilised by September. But as I said, it had created a lot of work for us to try and get back on track with. We still had some customers shielding and had issues with accessing certain properties to carry out repairs for understandable reasons. Some customers were apprehensive about letting us back in, or, like I say, continued to shield for personal reasons. In addition to COVID and the impact of lockdown and furloughing of staff, we've also had to manage significant challenges around labour shortages and material shortages, primarily due to Brexit, but also a bit of a COVID impact as well. We have seen a significant shortage in some basic materials, particularly timber, concrete, postcrete and other supplies, which obviously we use on a daily basis to carry out repairs, which has impacted on our ability to clear the recent backlog of orders that we have. So in terms of what we're doing to try and recover the position and clear the backlog of open orders for customers, we're meeting every week with Axis and reviewing work in progress, as well as managing a service improvement plan with the management team at Axis. So we've put in place a number of actions. We've identified areas for improvement, and we've put in place actions that are being monitored through to completion with them to try and support an improvement in the service delivery and reduction in the number of open orders that we have at the moment. We are having challenges with operatives at the moment, unfortunately. Like I was saying, we are experiencing some labour shortages. I think the market is such that we are struggling to recruit but also retain quality operatives at the moment. So we are working with Axis on a recruitment and retention plan as well at the moment, which we hope to have in place in the next couple of weeks to allow us to get back up to our optimum number of operatives, which is 22. We're currently down at 14 operatives, unfortunately, due to some recent resignations. So we're working closely with Axis on that to try and get the resource in place that we need to deliver the service. We've also agreed additional back office admin support to improve the scheduling of the orders and try and streamline the process from when a customer raises the order to when it's completed on site, because we have identified some areas for improvement in the back office scheduling and administration processes as well. And like I've already mentioned, in terms of material shortages, fencing in particular is causing us some challenges, and we are seeing delays on getting those types of works completed, unfortunately, due to lack of supply. One other positive thing which Axis have been able to get in place recently is a move to a new office in Frimley on the Lion Way business estate. They have been working from home for the past over a year now, well over a year, and I think this has impacted on their ability to deliver the service. They were a fairly new contract team, and I think working from home hasn't particularly supported them in addressing some of the challenges they're having with the service. So they moved into their new Frimley office just over a month ago, and it does seem to be reaping benefits already in terms of the contract management team being able to support the schedulers and the administrators with the delivery of the service. So just an overview of performance for you. So in terms of our customer experience KPIs, areas that we monitor are repairs completed within 15 days, and we have a target of 95% of all orders completed. Currently, year to date, we're at 65.8%, which, as you know, is obvious, is well under target. However, due to the fact that we are dealing with a backlog of orders and we have a larger than desirable number of outstanding jobs, we wouldn't anticipate this to be significantly higher until we've addressed the backlog, because although we do obviously have to focus on completing new repairs that are raised to us, we also have to have a keen focus on making sure that we are completing those older jobs as well. And for the whole time that we have to continue to be completing those older jobs, the target of 95% of all orders completed within 15 days won't be achievable. So I wouldn't expect to see that increase until service is improved and we are we've significantly reduced the number of aged orders. In terms of first time fix, our target is 90%, and we're currently on year to date 78.1% first time fix, which again we have room for improvement. I think one of the reasons for that figure is that some of these older jobs that are sort of historic from lockdown and the period where we were struggling with getting out and getting those jobs done, is that they have had more than one visit, and we are having to go back and pick up on historic issues for customers. But that's something that we are focusing on and keen to improve. And customer satisfaction, our target is 4.5 out of 5, and that's the score that the customers feedback to us. It's 1 is poor and 5 is excellent, basically. So currently, year to date, our customer satisfaction score is 4.18. So again, room for improvement, although considering where we are with the service and the backlog of orders, it is encouraging to see that customers are still generally satisfied and happy with the quality of the service they're receiving once the repair has been completed. So just a little bit of an overview for you in terms of the gas contractor, so our heating and hot water repairs. This is provided by a contractor called TSG, who've been in place for just over a year now. So they only joined us just before lockdown last year. Currently, we have 2 emergency orders open and 57 routine orders open, and we have a first time fix rate of 94% against a target of 95%. So we're not seeing the same volumes for the gas service, which you would expect, obviously, because they only really focus on the boilers and the radiators, but also this time of year, obviously, people don't have the heating on generally, so we don't tend to see the demand over the summer months for heating and hot water repairs. In terms of the servicing, obviously all of our gas properties have an annual gas check, and customer satisfaction with gas servicing is 4.75, which is really positive to see. Less so is the repair satisfaction, which is at 2.72 against a target of 4.5. I think one of the main reasons for this, and I've noted it at the bottom of the slide, is that what we've been seeing is that customers are either very happy in providing a score of 5, or they're not happy at all and they're providing a score of 1 against the gas heating and hot water service. And that's something that the compliance manager who oversees the gas contract is working closely with TSG on, because we're conscious that we really need to get much more consistency in terms of the quality of the repairs and the service that we're providing to customers, and reduce the number of 1 scores that we're receiving. So just an overview for you in terms of our complaints process. So we implemented a new complaints policy and procedure last year in the autumn, and we have a 3-stage process, an internal 3-stage process. Early resolution, where at first point of contact, whoever the customer speaks to, that colleague is responsible for taking ownership of trying to address the complaint for the customer. So that's either going to be the contact centre, or it could be someone in the regional office, like a surveyor or a customer partner. We then have the manager investigation stage and the director investigation stage, and those are escalation points if the customer's not happy with the resolution that's been offered. We do aim to resolve our complaints within 5 working days, and we keep customers informed throughout that process. So part of our new policy is to really try and improve the complaints management process for customers, so the experience that they receive, so much more proactive engagement with customers around the resolution of complaints. And we do not close complaints. And this is a new policy we've implemented. We do not close complaints until, particularly on repairs, until the repair is actually completed. Historically, we would close a complaint as soon as we'd confirmed that a job had been scheduled, or that we confirmed that we chased it up with the contractor, for example. But now, and I think this is a significant improvement in the customer experience, is that we keep that complaint open, and the colleague who has that complaint is responsible for maintaining ownership all the way through until the repair is completed. And we have had much more positive feedback from customers now that we've started doing that. And then obviously if the customer's still not satisfied with the resolution, they have the option to refer the case to their local MP or councillor, or they can wait and go to the Housing Ombudsman. So that's our current complaints process. So in terms of current complaints that we have 80 open complaints in the South region, which works out to be about 2.7% of all of our properties in the South. 74 of these do relate to repairs or planned maintenance works, which, although it is high, and we're working hard to reduce the number of complaints through the service improvement plan with Access, for example, it's not particularly surprising that the majority are around repairs, as customers regularly feedback to us that one of the most important priorities for them as a tenant is the repair service. We currently have 3 complaints with the Housing Ombudsman, which are being reviewed at varying stages, and they're with the Housing Ombudsman because the customer has exhausted the internal complaints process. We also have 6 disrepair cases at the moment in the South region, and a disrepair case is where a customer has sought to take legal advice and bring a claim against Accent Housing because they believe that their property to be in a state of disrepair due to repairs having not been completed. So nearly all disrepair cases are managed by solicitors who work on a no-win, no-fee basis. And we do sometimes find that in order to increase their fees, they try and delay repairs being completed, which can be a frustration for us. Obviously, we're keen to get the repairs completed as soon as we can for customers. Some of the solicitors are more willing to engage than others, but it can be quite challenging. But at the end of the day, the customer's totally within their right to bring a claim if that's what they want to do, and we'll work with them to see the repairs through to resolution. So just a bit of an overview for you on planned maintenance. So last year, 2021, we completed 688 planned units. So I won't go through all the numbers there, but as you can see, we did complete an awful lot of boilers and also bathrooms, radiators, kitchens, windows and roofs, which, considering the climate last year with COVID, I think was a good achievement for us in the region. We worked hard to still be able to deliver a planned maintenance programme, considering we were dealing with COVID as well. We have a challenging target this year for planned works. 2021-22 forecast, as you can see, is down. We're down to deliver just over 1,000 units of planned improvements for customers in the South, and we're on track at the moment to deliver in all of those work streams apart from roofing. And as I was referring to earlier, with material supply issues, we are seeing real challenges with material supplies for roof tiles in particular, and in some types of roof tiles we're looking up to 26 weeks lead-in time for those. So it's going to be very hard for us to deliver on the roofing programme this year, but we'll still try our best to get something delivered. But with all the other work streams, we're confident that we can achieve that target. So just to give you a quick overview, we've been through a large procurement piece in the last 6 months for all of our planned work streams, and new contracts have recently been awarded for all planned work areas. So King Craig, who are a local company based in Camberley, have been awarded the kitchens and bathrooms programme. They've also been awarded the windows and doors programme. Ockley Plumbing, who's also a local Camberley company, have been awarded the heating install. So that's boilers and radiators, so central heating systems. And a new contractor for us, Brayer, who's a national company, they've been awarded the roofing programme. So we're just building a new working relationship with Brayer at the moment. So just to give you an overview, obviously, what the process is, we go out or we contact customers who are due for planned maintenance works to let them know what works we want to do in the property to improve the home. And a survey is completed by the contractor. Plans are submitted and materials are ordered. At the moment, that's where we're falling down a little bit, unfortunately, due to delays. But like I said, we're still pushing to deliver. And then we schedule the installs directly with the customers, and all works are signed off by the contractor and our plan works surveyor jointly, where we pick up on any issues that customers might have with the quality and finish of the planned works, particularly for kitchens and bathrooms and windows, but kitchens and bathrooms obviously are the most personal for customers, I feel. So in terms of our heating upgrades, I just wanted to give you a quick update on this, because we have done an awful lot of work in the last couple of years to update the heating systems in our independent living scheme. So people might know that as sheltered housing. So we have 7 schemes in Surrey Heath, and we've replaced the commercial boilers in 6 of those 7 schemes in the past 2 years. Heathermead Court is the only scheme left to do, and that is scheduled for this month, September. So every scheme will have nice shiny new commercial boilers by the end of this month. We've also been working on replacing additional central heating parts in individual schemes, so 3-port valves, isolation valves, and also looking at radiators and pipework, particularly in Cranmore Court down in Mitchett, where we have had some particular issues with the heating systems. So we've been working closely with TSG and Ockley on that piece of work. So just to finish off for you, it's not particularly related to repairs, but just as a little update on partnership working with Accent. So we've been leading on a new campaign, More Than Homes, with the social housing sector, and we have challenged the social housing sector to raise £1 million for the Trussell Trust. We've led this campaign, and we donated ourselves £50,000 towards this goal of 1 million that we have, and it's been very successful. I'm afraid I don't know where we're currently up to in terms of how much we've managed to raise, which would have been nice to be able to share with you, but I'll find that out and share that after the meeting, because it's been very successful so far, and it's got quite a lot of traction on social media, which is great. We've also put in place an arrears support fund. This was put in place during lockdown 1 to support customers who have been struggling due to furlough or being made redundant during lockdown. So far we've paid out £58,000 worth of, or we've paid off £58,000 worth of arrears for customers who've been struggling. We've been working closely with customers over the past 18 months, supporting them in what has been a very difficult time for a lot of people, a lot of uncertainty around work situations, and concerns about how they're going to be able to pay their rent. So we've been supporting customers as best we can to reassure them and support them around that. My colleague Rob Mills, our regional director, continues to sit on the poverty working group, which he attends regularly. And we've also successfully housed 4 families through the Syrian refugee programme, and more recently we've just housed 5 families through the Afghan resettlement programme. They've been placed into temporary accommodation, but I know Rob is committed to identifying permanent housing if that's what they would like to do within the stock. So that's been a piece of work that's very recently happened in Surrey Heath. And that's my update for everybody, and I'm happy to take questions if people have any.
Thank you very much, Holly. Can I thank you for your in-depth and interesting presentation tonight?
Oh.
I think people would, and the members here would have found that very, very interesting and very good to have you here. I'll be throwing the questions open and comments to the floor in a minute. Some of the things you've mentioned, you mentioned the accent problem with recruitment issues. I'm wondering, is this something perhaps we can help you with as a council through the workshop that we have in Camberley Town Centre? That's all up and running now. You might like to think about that and perhaps talk to our officers about that. I'm really pleased to hear what you're saying there, and obviously we're following that with the help you're giving to the Syrian and the Afghan resettlement and the refugee problems. That's excellent to hear that you're doing that. So members, I'll throw it open to the floor. Stop sharing the screen, yes. Holly,
Yeah.
I'm being asked, could you stop sharing your screen?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, and I didn't realise my camera turned itself off when I started sharing my presentation, so I didn't realise you couldn't see me the whole time. So apologies for that.
And we're on new technology here tonight, so we're all learning here as well.
Oh, okay.
Councillor Deach.
Thank you, Chairman. And seeing myself on the screen there, I'm getting a bit of stage fright. So, so thank you for that presentation, Holly. Very interesting. New members of this committee might recall that, or what may not know, I should say, that we asked Accent to come back to this committee on a regular basis and update us on the situation as a result of the large number of complaints that members from across the borough, actually, not just in my own ward of Mitchett and Deacup, but across the borough, were receiving about the repair service and so on. And to be fair, things did seem to be improving. And I have to say, based on what you've told me, the challenges that you've had with COVID, I'm surprised I don't actually get more complaints now than what I do. I am getting some, nowhere near on the level that that we used to get, I have to say, but that won't be any comfort to the residents who are waiting for repairs and are stuck in this backlog. So yeah, some of those residents just can't seem to catch a break when it comes to the repair service with Accent Peerless. Now, Cranmore Court, the situation there with their repairs and their assisted living or warden assisted housing, whatever it is that we call that these days, has actually given me rise to ask this question, and that is, what priority will you give to elderly residents? Because you mentioned there in your presentation that no one's got their heating on right now, but I guarantee you in September or later on this month when the weather starts to get colder and they all yank up their heating, it's all going to break down. And I want to know in particular what you're going to do to prioritise vulnerable residents to make sure that they don't get stuck in this backlog. They need to come first. They're going to feel the cold. It's been a tough, challenging time for them from a mental health point of view, with COVID being stuck indoors for a long time. I want to make sure that those residents are properly looked after, and hopefully you can give me some assurances to that effect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. So in terms of heating and hot water repairs, we're currently not managing a backlog of orders with the gas contractor TSG. So in my presentation, I noted that we've got 57 outstanding routine repairs and 2 emergency repairs for the gas service. So we're not currently having to manage a backlog of orders. So like you say, when people start to put their heating on in a few weeks, come autumn time, you know, obviously we do see a peak in contact and repairs being raised. as you know, the boilers get blasted and everything falls down. So we do plan for that, and we're confident that TSG is prepared for that peak in service, which naturally comes every autumn. But like I said, just to reassure you, we're not currently dealing with a backlog of repairs on the gas service specifically, so it shouldn't be an issue. We do provide a 4-hour emergency service in the winter months for any heating and or hot water breakdown as well. So we do get out there very quickly to see if we can address it straight away. Obviously, sometimes it's difficult to diagnose and repair a fault on a boiler on a 4-hour emergency call out. If we can, we absolutely will. If it can't be resolved on that 4-hour emergency call out, then a follow-on is raised and we attend as soon as possible once we've got parts in, etc. But again, like you were saying, we do prioritise vulnerable customers, and we do ask those questions when they call in and report a hot water or heating repair in the winter months, and we'll flag that with the contractor as a priority order.
Thank you for that. That's very reassuring. I just wanted to say to members as well that if you do get, wherever you are, if you do get any queries from residents, I have found Accent whenever I've emailed Rob or Holly or anyone else to be very responsive. So hopefully, Holly, if we get alerted to any residents that may be having some issues, you'll be happy to receive those from us on the priority stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Any other members?
Thank you, Chairman. I was just looking at still the Holly on the screen. That's absolutely fine. Interesting presentation, thank you. I have been in touch with Rob sort of on previous occasions regarding repairs and that kind of thing. I was just interested to see about the refugee programme. I think the Syrian refugee programme, the ones where 4 families were housed, was quite a while ago, wasn't it? I seem to recollect that. I'm not sure.
Yes.
It was a while ago. And can you tell me when there's 2 or 3 more planned? Because I think we did have problems sort of encouraging people to come into Surrey Heath, although the churches and residents and all sorts of organisations all clubbed together. I do remember going to a meeting at St Michael's Church, and everybody said, can we help, what can we do? Everyone was so enthusiastic, but it was difficult sort of not letting people actually know who the people were and sort of getting too much contact. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks, Josephine. In terms of the detail that I know about, it's not specifically my area, I'm afraid, but I'll try and answer as best I can. So those 4 families are still in Accent stock. They've been permanently housed in our general needs accommodation and still living in our homes. They're obviously welcome to stay as long as they like. And then we've made that commitment to house a further 2 families. I, to be honest, can't tell you what the plan is in terms of when they're due to move in, whether it's imminent or not, I'm afraid, but I know that we've made that commitment to offer a further 2 properties for that programme.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Yes,
thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. It was most enlightening. I have been involved with a couple of complaints, one including legal outcomes, so we won't discuss that too much, but also the kitchen replacement programme, which everybody seems to think is wonderful. The planning is superb. Everyone's very happy with that. The quality of the kitchens that are being provided is excellent. Where it seems to fall down is the actual installation. The people doing the installation are not as good as they could be. I wonder what instructions you give to them, because on more than one occasion I've had residents say that the contractors have told them that this is what we do for a council job. If it was your private house, we would do it differently. To me, that is not acceptable. And I'm sure to other members it's not acceptable. So what instructions are you giving to these people? Because as I understand it, you're going to visit one of these houses tomorrow, where they have installed the cupboards with the feet at maximum. If you look at the photographs, which you've been sent, I've been sent, I mean, everyone with a phone these days is a documentary producer. They're right at the limit of their extension. There is no need for that. The fact that they are at the limit of their extension means that the plinths don't fit, and they're going to have to come back and bodge up the plinths. And the worktops are above the level of the cooker, which is a fire risk. So when you see this tomorrow, I hope you'll understand why we get some complaints about the installation. And the other thing that you mentioned was the fact that you're having one trade at a time going in to do some of the major repairs. Now, the one instance that I've come across is someone who had their whole floor replaced. And that was done piecemeal, room by room, with trades coming and going, and it took forever. The original plan was to move the family out, get everybody in, get it sorted, move them back. Because there were young children involved, they had to move out anyway, but it dragged on and on and on. So I was just wondering if you could comment about the instructions you're giving to contractors and whether the most efficient ways of working are always being followed. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Cliff. So in terms of the planned maintenance contracts and the kitchen specifically, but it goes for all of the different work streams, we certainly wouldn't be using the type of language that that operative is obviously used in terms of the quality in a council house and the quality in a private house. That's certainly not the kind of language we would be using or the attitude that we have either. But obviously we do have a specification and a standard that we work to. So when we procure our contracts, we outline the materials that are to be used and the specifications that the kitchens and bathrooms, for example, are to be installed to. So the expectation is that although the customer gets to choose the sort of the colour choices for the kitchen, for example, they all should be installed to exactly the same specification and standards. So you know what to expect, and we know what we're expecting from our contractors when they go and install a new kitchen. I am aware of the example that you've given, and my intention is to go and inspect that one myself personally, because I understand the customer's not happy with the install and the look of the kitchen. Obviously, you know, our hope is to get it right first time with kitchen and bathroom installs. And like I was saying earlier, it is particularly personal for customers because it's their home, and, you know, you spend a lot of time in your kitchen and bathroom and you want it to be nice and you want it to look, you know, really good, which is what we want as well for our customers. So we take that type of feedback really very seriously, and we work closely with Kincraig in this example to make sure that it's put right to the customer's satisfaction. You know, obviously sometimes there is a bit of confusion around the specification, which we might need to try and work through with customers, but at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to have a happy customer, and I want her or whoever to be pleased with the end result. So we do monitor feedback very closely. We meet monthly with all of our planned contractors and review customer satisfaction feedback, not just the scores like I showed you, but also the the written feedback, and we go through that. And if we need to put action plans in place to improve certain areas, then we will do that. For example, we had some feedback on our boiler installs recently that customers were seeing delays in making good works being completed. So we addressed that with Ockley Plumbing, and now they've recruited a handyman to follow the engineers in straight after the installs to go and complete the making good. And we've seen an improvement in the customer satisfaction and the feedback. So we do monitor it very closely, and it's really important that customers have a good experience when people are going into their homes and carrying out works, like you or I or anybody. Letting someone into your home and for them to be doing things in your property, it's really important that they're respectful and they carry out the works in a respectful manner and to a standard that people are happy with.
Holly, thank you for that. I'm going to bring in Councillor Whitcroft now.
Thank you. Holly, I wonder please if you might be able to provide us with a little more information on the situation at Cranmore Court in Mitchett, please. I have had reports down there. They've had occasions where they've had no running water. They have had issues with their boilers. Yeah, so as I say, if you could, would you be able to update us a little bit further on the situation down there, please?
Yes, absolutely, Helen. So we replaced the commercial boilers at Cranmore Court last year. We upgraded them, and this then basically exposed issues with the heating system. We put in these, fancy new boilers, and then the older heating system was saying, oh, I'm not quite compatible with this. And so we did, some customers did see problems with their radiators as a result of the commercial boiler installs. So we've been going round, we've surveyed every property at Cranmore Court now, and we've updated the 3-port valves in every property, and we're also surveying all of the radiators as well, and we'll be replacing wet radiators where required in each flat, because obviously people need to have adequate heating. So it has been taken longer than we anticipated, unfortunately, and one of the lessons learned for us has certainly been that in terms of getting things done for customers, I think we could have been quicker off the mark where we were having challenges with the gas contractor we were using. I think we should have been quicker off the mark to go to another contractor. I think we tried to sort of push them along and give them time to resolve the issues for us, but actually from a customer perspective, we should have just said, no, we need to go and find another contractor. We can't wait any longer. And I think for us, that's certainly been a lesson learned at Cranmore Court. But I'm pleased to say that every property has been surveyed now, and all the 3-port valves have been changed. So we're well on the way to all that work's being completed, ready for when everyone needs to have their heating back on.
Thank you for that, Holly. Are there any other members from the floor? Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I've just got 2 questions, Holly. The first one is regarding the KPIs that you raised on page 5 of the slides, and it's the repairs completed within 15 days. And I'm just wondering, and this is a kind of very direct question, is a 95% target a realistic target if you're not meeting it? Are you setting yourself up to fail there? And I was also interested in kind of what is specifically being done with TSG to kind of get their consistency levels as you, I just kind of, if you could provide some more detail on that work as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I agree, at the moment, the target isn't realistic. These are annual KPIs that we set across Accent Group. Based on how the contract is performing at the moment, it's not a realistic target for the reasons I explained, really, that because we're managing a backlog of older orders, those orders are over 15 days old, so it's not going to be achievable for us to meet that target at the moment until we reduce the backlog. I think once we're through the backlog and, you know, we can get to a situation of business as usual or continuous improvement, that is an achievable target. And it certainly needs to be a push target, because our commitment to customers is a 15-day service standard on routine repairs. So we, you know, once we're through this backlog, we do need to push ourselves to be aiming for that 95%, but it's not something we can do at the moment. And then the TSG part of your question. Yeah, so as I was saying to Cliff as well, we're monitoring customer feedback regularly, and we're reviewing this at a weekly service improvement meeting with TSG to understand what areas of the service are falling down. So why are we getting too many ones, basically, and working directly with TSG on actions to improve those areas of the service. I think it can be challenging on gas, because if you do have a loss of heating or hot water, it can be quite stressful for people. And if parts are required, then, you know, you may be without heating or hot water, although we obviously would provide temporary heaters. But if you are without, you know, if you're with a loss of heating or hot water for a few days because we're waiting on parts, it can be stressful. And I think it's how we manage that process for customers, keeping them up to date, making sure the experience of the service is still positive, even if they are waiting on a repair. So these are things we're working on directly with TSG.
Thank you, Holly. Councillor Brooks.
Thanks, Holly, for that presentation. A question really on these targets and KPIs. Surely there's probably a couple of targets within this rather than just the one, because there are new suppliers and they will be targeted to perform as per their contract, presumably. I'm also thinking they must also be targeted on reducing the backlog. So it's confusing really to have it all wrapped up into one target when maybe it should be two. I don't know what you think about that. Thanks.
So yeah, as part of the weekly work in progress and service improvement meetings, we do look at the WIP in detail. So we do break it down. We break it down by age, we break it down by trade, we break it down by risk. So obviously health and safety orders, aids and adaptations orders, emergency orders, for example. So we do review the WIP in more specific detail each week with Axis, and we specifically target them on specific areas. So a reduction in aged orders, reduction in new orders, reduction in health and safety orders, etc., etc.
Thank you. Members, I'm now going to turn to Zoom. We have 3 councillors who are on Zoom tonight, and 2 of them would like to ask questions of Holly. And I'll take Councillor Bates first, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I just want to agree with the point made by Councillor Deachin that whenever I've needed to contact Holly or indeed Mr Mills about any constituent cases, which is fairly regular, I have to say, in Aldine, they do respond very quickly, and usually we can get to a resolution fairly quickly. And there's always 2 sides to every story, and we usually get to whatever the truth of the matter is fairly quickly. So I appreciate that. There's 2 points I want to make. Firstly, Holly, one of the things that we discussed a little while ago was regarding the customer service aspect to all of this. So not the technical side, but issues such as people not expecting something to be done by a certain time and it isn't, or expecting to be told that they need to stay in for an appointment and no one turns up, no one lets them know. And there's a whole series of things like that where perhaps staff who are more technical don't actually recognise the customer service aspect to all of this. So if people accept a delay, as long as they're kept informed, basically. And so the question is, has that element been picked up internally with the contractors just so that they understand the importance of that. And it's not just about getting the job done, but keeping everybody kept informed. And the second question, which I appreciate is slightly outside your immediate area, but it might be one to perhaps take away, is during the pandemic, communal lounges were shut for, in my view, far longer than they should have been and longer than elsewhere. And I am concerned that if we do get a second area of restrictions, that communal lounges may need to shut for a very short period of time, but that should really be for the absolute shortest period possible. And the reason for that, and the resident made a very sharp point to me about this, is why is it the case that they can meet with their neighbour in a local pub or a local cafe, but they can't meet with their neighbour in the shared lounge of their place, which happened to be an Accent property? That made no sense to them at all, and I have to say I agree with them. Far safer to meet in the communal lounge than it is in a pub or cafe. So I would encourage Accent, I appreciate not your direct responsibility, but I would encourage Accent to strongly look at that as part of the contingency planning, because loneliness and isolation in our communities is a very important issue, and we need to do everything we can to ensure that people who've paid for a facility such as a communal lounge have the maximum possible opportunity of using it.
Thanks, Rodney. Yeah, absolutely. I note your point about the lounges, and like you say, it's not really my area, but I will certainly take that back to Rob and make sure that we're having a discussion about, potential plans if, unfortunately, excuse me, we do have to go back into a further lockdown. Hopefully that won't happen, but you never know. But yeah, I'll certainly take that away, because I'm afraid I can't give you a response on that now. In terms of the customer experience of dealing with delays and rescheduling on complaints, absolutely, and it's a key priority in terms of the service improvement plan. I think for me, it's obviously we need to clear the backlog and we need to get the repairs completed, but how we go about it and how we are communicating with customers, for me, is the most important thing to get right, because like you say, customers are very understanding actually, and I've found that when we've spoken to customers, they have understood the challenges we've been experiencing and are very gracious in waiting, as long as we're keeping them up to date and communicating with them. So it's right at the top of the priority list. We're working with Axis on this because there have been shortfalls in terms of the customer service side of the scheduling and the rescheduling of repairs. And they've recently recruited a new customer services manager who's already been making some really great improvements and progress in terms of how the team are managing those customer contacts. She's been really proactive in, excuse me, in terms of encouraging the team and focusing everybody on making sure that we are making those calls, keeping people up to date. It's a work in progress, but we are seeing improvements, and I think that new customer service manager role has been a key part to that. I think in addition, like I said in the presentation, having the Axis team back working together from an office location has already shown some benefits in terms of them being able to support one another, communicate more easily with each other on difficult cases. You can just talk over the monitor, can't you, and say, oh, I've got so and so on the phone and I need to do this and that, and it's a lot more responsive, I think. So they're reporting feeling a lot happier about the work environment, which I think can only benefit customers as well.
Thank you for that, Holly. I have Councillor Wheeler who would like to ask a question. Thank you.
Oh, you're on mute.
That's unbelievable. Total fail. Thanks for the presentation. I've got a couple of questions. One, I suppose, is the lessons learned as a result of the previous contract failure. And given that Kincaid and Ockley Plumbing is essentially the same group of companies, that they share absolutely directors across both organisations, I just wondered what contingency we have, or how we're managing should they fail, because we've got an awful lot of eggs there in one basket. So that's question number one. And then question number two is particularly where contractors are going into the homes of vulnerable or more vulnerable residents, given the government's directive on vaccinations being mandatory for care home workers. I just wondered what the policies were of the organisations that you engage with and what your own policies were in that respect, in order to make sure that we are protecting our residents in the best possible way. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Victoria. So in terms of lessons learned, I think we went into the contract with Axis well aware of where the service failings were on the repairs service. We weren't under any illusions about where we were as a service provider, and we had some very honest conversations with Axis about what we needed from them. And like I said in the presentation, they inherited a challenging situation with a lot of open orders, which they agreed to take on for us, and actually successfully completed within 6 months of the contract, which was great to see. And we were well on track to being a well-performing repairs service. And then lockdown came, and it's really obviously unfortunate for a lot of reasons, but really unfortunate for the service that it did put a halt to all that great progress that we'd made. And obviously none of us are particularly prepared for the pandemic, and it wasn't something that we had a contingency for. And we were thinking on our feet really at the time as to what was best to do in terms of delivery, how long to put a hold on responsive repairs, and when to start to remobilise and sort of slowly open up the service again. So I think in terms of lessons learned, it was more circumstantial really in terms of where the service failings started to come in. I think we know where we need to improve now to get back on track to where we were. We've basically got to do what we did last time to get back to that position. It's just that the challenges have been compounded by operational labour shortages and material shortages, unfortunately, which we weren't seeing previously. So those are two kind of elements that weren't a challenge before, which we're now having to try and work through and support Axis to get on top of. In terms of Kincraig and Ockley, you're absolutely right. Obviously, we've been through a very robust procurement process, and we've, in terms of the procurement process, obviously we do go through a risk assessment in terms of financial viability. So we're confident that they're a strong company. We don't have any concerns about them. But saying that, obviously, we do have other contractors who bidded for those works. So we would have the option to, if the worst happened, we would have the option to approach those other contractors that bidded for the work if we needed to in that situation, which I know we have had to do historically, because like you say, sometimes for whatever reason, a contractor might just not work out. And then the last point you made, Victoria, was around, was it around COVID health and safety policy?
No, it's about, I suppose, with the government directive that nobody should be able to work in a care home unless they're double vaccinated. Given that some of your contractors are essentially going into sheltered housing, that sort of thing, which will have a very similar clientele. I just wondered what your policies were and how they flow down to your contractors in terms of the requirement for double vaccination.
Yeah. So we don't have a requirement for colleagues or contractors to be double vaccinated. We have internally at Accent been surveying staff, and obviously it is a voluntary survey to try and get a good understanding of how many of our staff are double vaccinated, but it's not we're not requiring staff to be double vaccinated. Since the pandemic started, we've obviously put in place COVID risk assessments for all staff, and in particular customer facing staff and contractors. And contractors have been obviously reviewing and updating their COVID safe risk assessments and policies and processes throughout the last year and a half, as have we, and they submit those to us on a regular basis for review, and there obviously is that expectation that they're working in a safe manner to reduce the risk to customers. We don't in the South have any care homes specifically. We have independent living schemes for older people, but there's no element of care. And obviously when we are going into people's homes, there's no personal contact with those people, and we are obviously still practicing a policy of wearing a mask and socially distancing when we're in people's homes.
Thank you very much, Holly. I just wonder if maybe something to consider, given that double vaccination isn't something that you are able to insist upon, maybe a policy of regular tests and those being reported back centrally to you would be something as a halfway house compromise, particularly for those contractors that are going, because you are in a home for a very long time, and much as we are following COVID safe practices, in the majority of cases they're likely to be offered a cup of tea. In some cases they will accept it, and you can't drink a cup of tea with your mask on. So if maybe in those circumstances, particularly as we move into the winter months where properties will be sealed in a way that they aren't currently, it's possibly something to consider.
Yeah, so just on that point quickly for you, we have at Accent been providing lateral flow tests to all frontline staff, and strongly encouraging, shall I say, everybody to be testing twice weekly. Again, it's not something that we're making mandatory, but we are strongly encouraging all frontline staff to take twice weekly tests, which we're sending out to them in the post, and that's the same for contractors.
So maybe the reporting could become mandatory. So either they have tested, they haven't tested, or they tested negative. At least it would give some indication of compliance with the wider workforce.
Yeah, good idea.
Thank you.
Holly, many thanks for being with us tonight. Many thanks for being with us tonight and answering so many various questions. And I wish you success in the future with all these things that you're going to be doing. And I'm sure we would all welcome you back sometime in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Sorry, I must be going a bit deaf in my old age, but could I ask you to speak up, please? Because I'm really struggling to hear you, and even with my volume turned up.
Members, we will now turn to agenda item 6, and this is to receive a presentation from local Surrey Heath Police Commander, Inspector Alec James. Thank you, Alec.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and good evening all, and thank you very much for having me, giving me the opportunity to talk through some of those crime trends in Surrey Heath at the moment, some of the challenges that we're facing and some of the things that we're doing about them. If I could have the slide up, if I may. mine's further on. I think they're all in a bundle. Marvellous, thank you very much. Okay, talk about some of those, the good news and those downward trends first. We've got a 3% reduction in total notifiable offences. That's comparing the last year to the year before that. Residential burglary is still down by 39%. Commercial burglary down. Domestic abuse with injury is down, which I'm really pleased to see. Robbery is down, criminal damage down, and antisocial behaviour is down, and I'm really, really pleased to see that as well. We've got the high harm offences, which we have seen a rise, including hate crime and notably their theft of motor vehicle, where we've seen a 14% increase. I'm going to focus on that theft of motor vehicle increase. In the first instance, this is a map of Surrey Heath showing those hotspot areas for thefts of motor vehicle over the last year. This year, there have been 63 thefts of motor vehicle in Surrey Heath, and the majority of those have been using a keyless attack method. There are many ways of getting into a car. Usually, they consist of the getting in part and then the starting the engine part. But the relay attack, which is what I believe is happening in Surrey Heath at the moment, after seeing some recent Ring doorbell footage of this taking place, is where you have an exploit a vulnerability in the keyless entry start system, relaying the signal from the key, which is in the property, and that key constantly emits the OK go signal. That signal is transmitted to somebody by the car, who is then able to open that car, and then they'll reset it, do it again, and drive it off. And that significantly reduces the opportunities for us to find forensic evidence, because there's no glass at the scene, they're not tearing car cowlings away, they're not breaking into homes. And this can take a minute and a half to do, and I have a video which I hope will work. I have my fingers crossed in a moment, which will show that in action. What I'm really encouraging people to do at the moment is to see if they can, which will block that RFID signal, block that signal from their keys. And you can get Faraday bags, Faraday pouches quite cheaply off the internet to put them in. Or you could consider using something like a double-walled metal thermos or a thick metal box, or getting them as far away from the front of your property as possible, although that's the least recommended option. What you should be doing is trying to block that signal. So if you've got something like that at home, put your keys in it, go to your car, see if it blocks the signal. Do double check it, do test it for me. Something else that you can do, which actually Alan suggested to me at a recent meeting, is go for some of those more old school methods of a steering lock, because the thieves want to get away clean, they don't want to make noise, they don't want to leave behind forensic evidence. And if they're having to get past that physical lock, that just makes the target a little bit more unattractive. They're less likely to target your vehicle, and they might go elsewhere. Let's see if this works. Fingers crossed. So this is a video from 2017. So the method of attack has been around for a while. they're away. So for us to target our proactive policing patrols to those areas is really difficult when the attack speeds are so quick. Us being able to be there at the right time and the right place is really, really difficult. We have got a lot of work going on into these at the moment. They're being reviewed every morning, every offence which is committed. They are being committed elsewhere in Surrey as well and regionally. We have our intelligence team working on ANPR to identify where these vehicles are travelling, seeing if they're in convoy with anyone. And we're working with other forces. Currently, we believe that the people that are targeting Surrey Heath are not from within Surrey. They are from without, using those main arterial roads to get into Surrey Heath to commit the offences. But we are working hard to try and identify who they are so we can target them and stop them. But what I would really like is for that message to get out into the communities that if you've got a keyless car key, block that signal. Or see if you can go back to the manufacturer, because some are being made now which go into a sleep mode when you put them on your bedside table or on your table when you go into your hall, which means they will stop transmitting that signal if there is no motion detected. Okay, moving on to hate crime, which is another one of those offences which we've seen an increase in, which is one of our force priorities and one of my priorities in Surrey Heath. This is a map of the hate crimes which have happened over the last year and the hotspots. Some good news. Compared to last year, we've seen an improved arrest rate and we've seen an improved voluntary interview attendance rate. So more people are being held accountable for committing these offences, which is what I really want to see and what I'm driving. When we look at the makeup of these offences, 20% of them are between neighbours, 22% strangers. The rest are known to each other through other means. They might be fighting and having it in a feud, or family members. And how we're approaching this is in two ways. With the neighbours, what we're trialling in Surrey Heath at the moment, we have been trialling for a little over a year now, is something called a hate crime cocooning letter. And that is where a hate crime has been committed in a residential area. That is getting our boots on the ground and delivering a letter to households within a radius of that address to tell them that there's been a hate crime in the area, what a hate crime is, and encourage them to report it if they have been the victim of a hate crime. The reason that we're doing that is trying to provide the reassurance to the community so people know what a hate crime is and that they know that we take hate crime seriously. We recently surveyed all of the people that we had delivered that letter to, and out of the 22% who would have said, no, we'd never report a hate crime to police, after receipt of that letter, 75% of that cohort now said they would report. So we're seeing some really good results there, going in a positive direction. I've been linking in with an academic from Portsmouth University, going through our evidence policing board to see if we can take this approach out into other areas and get an academic review of the data to assess the efficacy and see whether or not we can roll this out and recommend it nationally. So that'd be great to see something coming out of Surrey Heath that goes far and wide to keep people safe. With regards to the 22% strangers, you'll see one of the hotspots there is Camberley. We're working closely with businesses because a lot of our shop workers, restaurateurs are being subjected to hate crime. And when we went round and spoke to them, again, a lot of them wouldn't report it to police. They'd report it to their managers, or they'd just think, oh, no, there's no point. And I want people to feel safe living in Surrey Heath, but also working here. You shouldn't be subjected to hate crime and abuse when you're just trying to get on with your life. So we're going to carry on doing that, rolling out the Stop Hate UK information, linking in with businesses and really trying to drive that information home that we want this reported to us and we will take it seriously. And one of the other things that we'd seen an increase in over lockdown was antisocial behaviour. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, actually we've seen a reduction of 25%. And this is how that breaks down. A reduction of almost 30% of nuisance, 25% personal. It's the environmental where we've seen an increase. But those are relatively small numbers there with the abandoned vehicles. I'm not seeing that having a really significant effect that's coming through to me as the borough commander. What we are seeing, though, and you'll notice within that nuisance behaviour, although there's been an overall reduction, particularly around that rowdy and inconsiderate behaviour, which is fantastic to see, I'm seeing an increased reporting at the moment of vehicle nuisance and their inappropriate use. And I think that's got a lot to do with some of these car meets which have been displaced from Hampshire, where they were in Thames Valley, where they're in the Blackwater area, in car parks, and they've been displaced now into Surrey Heath. They're tending to meet up in Cobham area, and then they drive down through Surrey, tending to end up at the moment in Watchmore Park area, between sort of 8 and midnight, where their engines are roaring, they're drifting round the roundabouts. I saw a video recently where somebody walked out in front of one of these vehicles and got struck by that vehicle. I couldn't identify which the vehicle was, but there's some significant risk there and disruption to the communities, trying to get a good night's kip, and it's impacting on their quality of life. So I've allocated a PCSO to own that problem and take a problem-solving approach to it. If you've been following us on Surrey Heath Beat, you'll see that I put a dispersal order in for a month on Watchmore Park between 6 and 3 a.m. That just allows, that gives us a little bit more bite with what we can do when we get there. If they fail to go, then they'll be committing an offence. And also that power enables us to start seizing articles which have been used in the commission of that antisocial behaviour. So I want that message to go out. If your intention is to come to Surrey Heath, to drive dangerously and be a nuisance and make the residents' life a misery, then expect a walk home if we can get you. I thought I'd raise the joint neighbourhood survey results. These are for the first quarter. And Surrey Police do a number of surveys. We do the JNS, which goes out to the entire population of Surrey. Over the year 2021, we surveyed 2,700 people. That was just in West Surrey. West Surrey, for this quarter, I think it was a little over 500 people, 570, 580, who were surveyed. We also do victims of antisocial behaviour, satisfaction reports and surveys, victims of crime surveys, and victim contact surveys as well. But this is the JNS, and I wanted to bring this here because I think it talks to some of the things that are the heart of what we want to do. Really, really positive. When taking everything into account, how confident are you in your neighbourhood police? A percentage of very or fairly confident. 90.2% are very fairly confident in the Surrey Heath neighbourhood policing team. And that number is the highest in the west of Surrey. I think there's only one other borough in Surrey which beats us. When we talk about ASB satisfaction, we are the highest. An agreement that police are dealing with crime and ASB issues that matter in this area. And I'll move on in a moment because we do ask that question to the people of Surrey Heath. What are those ASB issues which matter to you most? So I've got those listed. 68.7. To what extent do you agree that the police in your neighbourhood are seen in the places and times that they're needed? 45.6%. And on average, during the last 12 months, how often have you seen a uniformed officer in car, on cycle or on foot? 58.8%. Now, I guess the key question is, are those good figures? I suppose if the theft of motor vehicles for example, are happening at midnight, 1 in the morning, I would expect my officers to be patrolling at that time in those hotspot areas to try and target the offenders, and they might not be seen. And it's important as well that we target our activity according to need. So a lot of people might not see us, but that might be because there's no requirement for us to be there at that specific time. However, I am really, really keen to make sure we are visible, and that's something that myself and my 2 sergeants are really, really keen on, is making sure we are out in the community, listening to our community's views, doing those street weeks, doing those meet the beats, having those conversations with people on the street so we can get to the heart of what affects them and what we need to be doing to keep them safe. And when we asked the community what ASB issues matter to them most, 48% said speeding motorists. And then it goes down: antisocial inconsiderate parking, antisocial driving, antisocial irresponsible cycling, drunk or rowdy behaviour in public places, and problem or noisy neighbours. And a lot of these are things that we work in partnership with Surrey Heath Borough Council, community safety managers, to try and resolve and address. And these don't change an awful lot. I had a look through the last 2 surveys, and they're pretty much the same. These are the same things which we're being told routinely. And we also asked, what are the most problematic crime types affecting the community? And the community were able to pretty much get it spot on, really, for what are the most problematic crime types. They acknowledge that it's the child exploitation, those high harm offences, the cyber crime and digital crime, which are significantly affecting people at the moment. But on that speeding motorist, just wanted to take a moment to describe our approach to that and how we prioritise those roads. It's our speed partnership with Surrey County Council, take the speed data and casualty figures, and they come up with a speed management plan. They identify high priority sites and low priority sites. Those high priority sites are provided with mobile enforcement and central casualty reduction officers from our central roads policing resources, so that doesn't come out of my team. And then the lower priority sites are policed by our local casualty reduction officer, of which we share one in Surrey Heath with one of the other boroughs, and our local resources. And then we will also deal with those speeding offences and other road-related offences through our intensification periods, which happen regularly throughout the year, tackling the fatal 5, mobile phone use, and drink and drug driving. I don't think that we're doing enough around those low priority sites, and that's something I would like to see us improve on. So moving forward, that's something I'll be taking on, trying to get more of my officers trained in the equipment and getting us deployed in those right locations, and seeing if we can marry up some of those priorities as well. If we've got antisocial behaviour in a particular location, let's marry up some of this activity. So there's a visible policing presence dealing with the speeding, but also we're visible deterring burglaries and other crime from happening in the area. And also this week and next week, we're within the National Crime Agency Operation child exploitation intensification period. And we'll be putting a lot of work in this week to raising awareness around the mechanisms of exploitation of young people. That'll be particularly around hotels, fast food establishments, taxis, schools, colleges, and also partners. I've shared this with Bob earlier today, asking that that's placed on the intranet and that it's signposted to team managers, asking that they can brief their teams on these key messages and the things to look out for and how we can protect exploited children. Also this week, responding rapidly in Surrey Heath and supporting the surrounding boroughs with any fast time intelligence that we might have or might get generated during this period about child exploitation. My priorities at the moment, domestic abuse. And I haven't really talked a lot about domestic abuse, but I'll update that Surrey Police have moved to enlarge their domestic abuse team. They've separated what was our safeguarding investigation unit into a domestic abuse team and a child abuse team. So we have specialist investigators now tackling those offences. And they take all the offences now. So prior to that, our response teams were dealing with a standard domestic abuse offence, but now everything's going there. So our response teams now, they're going out to do that immediate safeguarding, responding to those 999 calls, making the arrests, getting those golden hour evidential opportunities together, compiling a fantastic handover, which we can then give to our domestic abuse teams to progress and see if we can keep these people locked up, get them charged, or keep them away from the victims of these offences. We also talk about domestic abuse during our 6 weekly cycles of people, groups and places meetings. I've mentioned that before in some of the partnership meetings about my policing approach, that the teams will get together and discuss those crime trends, who are our repeat perpetrators, who are our repeat victims, and then making sure that our units are boots on the ground, are finding out what's going on. They're gathering the intelligence and they're putting in interventions where they can. I've talked about the antisocial behaviour. Drug dealing, we continue to deal with county lines, drug dealing, and drug dealing which is having a significant impact on our community through our TTCG meetings, our tactical tasking coordination group meetings, where I can draw upon resources from the rest of the force to tackle this behaviour. Hate crime I've talked about, and burglaries I keep on there because it's such an intrusive and impactful offence, and we are about to move into our higher risk burglary period of the winter, starting in October, going through to January, February, where the nights get darker, that people try and target those unoccupied premises, and we'll be hopefully working again with the Neighbourhood Watch like we did last year, where we saw some great results, hopefully do that again. And that's the end of my presentation, and available for any questions, should there be any.
Thank you very much, Alec. Interesting presentation again, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a few questions to you. Can I just start the ball rolling by saying, I think you mentioned here about the 48% speeding motorists and antisocial driving, and I think dangerous driving. What I've noticed the last few months driving around here, in fact, we've had cameras put into our car now because we're so worried about dangerous driving and maniac driving all around Surrey Heath on different times of the day. Just wondering, well, you've said some of it, haven't you, about putting more police looking at this sort of thing, but it is a great concern to our residents. I'd say it's very high concern, Alec. Josephine?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Alex. Really interesting presentation. And I appreciate all you do, and I know that you do put a lot of effort into it, and you're not just saying things for the sake of it. You do actually mean what you say. I've never had a questionnaire about the policing in the borough. I've never had that, so I find, and the thought of seeing a policeman on a bicycle I find quite amusing. Because I've never, in a police car, yes, and occasionally on foot, but I've never seen a police officer on a bicycle. So that'd be perhaps a penny farthing or something. That'd be interesting at the next Camberley Car Show. There has been a lot of carless key thefts up on the Heatherside, up on the Cocktall estate. A huge amount has been going on, and I think every time we've had a presentation from the police, although you haven't majored on it so much, we always have it that, oh, it's because we live near the M3. And I'm wondering, is there any way, obviously you can't take people's registration numbers because they probably sort of go up the end of the cul-de-sac and change the number plate. Is there any way you can monitor cars that are actually going sort of between 2 and 3 in the morning, joining the M3? I mean, obviously, there's some legitimate people who are going about their business, going to work or wherever they happen to be going. But I think a lot of the cars are taken sort of between 2:30 and 3 in the morning, and the residents are just getting exasperated by the whole thing and say, what is happening? What are the police doing? They have the Ring cameras on the door, but it's all you can see is somebody in a hoodie, which doesn't really help at all. Thank you.
I think one of the problems is the sheer volume of traffic that would be going through those ANPR cameras, and how would we filter that information down to identify that suspect vehicle when they appear legitimate? We have 3 months or 3 months ago, our roads policing team stopped a vehicle in Surrey Heath because it was driving strange, and they thought someone might be drunk. Turns out it was drug driving. They also didn't have a license. They also had cloned plates in the back of the car, and the vehicle was also stolen from a keyless car theft. So it shows that actually they're coming down into Surrey Heath with the tools to just through the times they're going through ANPR cameras, I don't think would be possible due to the sheer volume. But we do have some very, very skilled analysts within our intelligence team who are able to use techniques like convoy analysis, and they're able to do a comparative time analysis as well. So they're able to run large pivot tabled spreadsheets to see which vehicles are frequently turning up, which vehicles have been in convoy with those suspect vehicles. Are there any vehicles, even if they're on clone plates, which meet that stolen vehicle description, to try and build that intelligence case? But it is difficult.
Can I just come back on that? Is it possible to occasionally put some of your successes on? Because at the moment, all you see on the different Facebook page, my car's been stolen, and that, and are the police doing anything? And it's, if you could, as a police officer or your staff sort of give some help, saying about the Faraday bags, and we have been successful with doing this. Some of your successes, I think, might give people a little hope, saying, "Oh, the police never do anything," because that's what they're saying, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Yes, I'll absolutely take that. We need to be more proactive with our successes to be able to shout about those from the rooftop. Unfortunately, I think sometimes we get just so caught up in the next thing. But we need to build that in and make sure our community know what we're doing.
Thank you. I quite agree with Josephine, because we've had this happening on Wellington Park, and I've been talking to Alec about it, and the Mortway in your area. It's all going on, isn't it? I agree with Josephine that if you could put something up Facebook or wherever, that would be good for our residents, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alec. That was very, very interesting. And I imagine you'd like double the number of staff, but there you go. You're probably not going to get those too quickly. But I've got a specific request. It's for a pile of residents at the bottom of Poolsbury Road. They are suffering from an awful lot of criminal damage to their cars, There's a load of crime references here. I'll give you this piece of paper afterwards, if I might. Lots of indications where they're just smashing windscreen mirrors, and it seems to be happening fairly often in the evenings. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's certainly smashed windows, wing mirrors knocked off, you know, £500 worth of damage, all this sort of thing. There's a whole list from different residents at the bottom of Portersbury Road. Now, there is obviously, we have a boxing club down there, and some of them seem to think it's that, some of them seem to think it's kids that have just got nothing better to do. There's no CCTV, as far as I'm aware, at that end, and it's a problem. So I'll give that to you, and I wouldn't mind a response, you know, after some other time about how these things are going to be dealt with. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, no problem. And I'll just take the opportunity to say, you know, a big thank you to you and to everyone else around the room who email me about these concentrations of incidents, and about these incidents that actually they're starting to snowball and they're starting to have a really significant impact on the community, because I can't always know about when that's happening. They might be dealt with in isolation by our contact centre. So our contact centre, when you call up, they might run a threat, harm and risk assessment on that information. They might have a look at the likelihood of us detecting it and the value of it. And sometimes that might go through for investigation, and sometimes they might thrive it out. Because there isn't the threat, harm and risk, there isn't the investigative line of opportunity, there isn't the vulnerability, and there isn't anything else that would allow us to successfully investigate that. So we need to be able to focus our attention on those more serious crimes, or on those crimes where there are the lines of inquiry for us to identify a perpetrator. But it's exactly things like that, where they're spiralling out of control, where there is this momentum building, which needs to be brought to our attention, so we consider a problem-solving approach, have a look at the whole problem holistically to try and identify a solution. So thank you and everyone else for raising those kind of things to me.
And Paul.
Thank you, Alec. Thank you for your presentation. Couple of things I'm going to rattle off, if that's all right. First of all, devastated to hear Vince Wakeling is retiring. What a great PCSO he's been. And I just want to publicly thank Vince for the work that he's done in this community over the years. And I hope you will pass that on to Vince on behalf of the residents that I represent at the very least. Thank you. We're quick to complain when things go wrong, but we're not so quick to give credit where credit's due. And I have to say that I've been very impressed with, you know, that antisocial behaviour has been an issue in the areas that I represent over the years. And I've been very impressed, particularly recently, at the community engagement from PCSO's Bright and Knight and PC Landegg for the work that they're doing. The Meet the Beat initiative that's running, I think, is very useful. I think it offers a lot of reassurance to residents when they can speak to their coppers in the field and raise those issues. And I've attended a number of those, and they've been very good. And I'm not surprised to hear, actually, that antisocial behaviour has dropped, because I know how proactive you guys have been, and particularly the work that you've done at Frimley Green Rec, I know in partnership with the council and partner agencies. So thank you to that. My question will be, will you keep that on your radar, antisocial behaviour? I think you've alluded to that in your presentation, but we know if you take your foot off the pedal with those things, they creep back in again. So I want an assurance that you're going to stay right on top of that antisocial behaviour. And I want to also say that I think I heard you right when you said that you think more can be done around speeding vehicles, and that you're going to allocate some more resources to that. Speeding accounts for a large part of my inbox, particularly in Mitchett. Mitchett Road, Hamersmoor Road, Colford Bridge Road. I'm doing everything I can to support the community speed watch there. I've given funds through my members allocation and all that to help that initiative. But I do think that you can't replace a copper, you know, being proactive there. I do believe that the fear of enforcement has disappeared from our communities, actually, and I think that accounts for a large part of the problem. So to see a copper out there with the speed gun does a lot of good. So yeah, I'd like to see more done on that. And finally, thank you for being proactive whenever I've emailed you about certain issues, intelligence on drug issues and all that sort of stuff. You've been fantastic, so I do appreciate that. I have to say though, we have been very blessed with neighbourhood borough commanders over the years in Surrey Heath, but you're right up there with the best of them. So thanks very much.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind. But it's not me. It's the team, and it's the information that you're providing me in order to deal with it. It's a community response. And that's the only way we get on top of this is as a community. So I'll definitely pass on to Vince your best wishes, and to PCSO Bright, and to PC Landag, and to Vanessa Knight as well. ASB, absolutely, I'm going to be keeping that on my radar. My remit is to be safe, feel safe. And I want people to be able to enjoy the parks and open spaces, to feel like they can go to work safely, to feel that they can go to a restaurant and walk home without fear that abuse is going to be hurled at them. It's really important to me that... And enjoy their back gardens, absolutely. It's really important to me that people feel safe and can enjoy Surrey Heath. And with speeding, yes, absolutely, we can do more, and I want to do more with regards to that. No problem.
Councillor Betton.
Thank you. Nice presentation. Cheerful, generally. Just a question about domestic abuse. In America, the Centers for Disease Control maintain records and statistics of people going into hospital. And domestic abuse is a category that they look at. In the US, just over half of the victims of domestic abuse are men. 90% of the people reported to the police as victims are women. Is it the same in the UK? Or is domestic abuse against men an underground crime that nobody knows about? I have personal interest in this from my work, so hence the question.
Yes, we know that there is underreporting from men, and there is also underreporting from those within the LGBTQ+ community as well. So we need to do more work to make sure that those groups feel comfortable and supported coming forward to report offences to us. But I don't think we should be in any doubt that the vast majority of perpetrators of domestic violence are men. And that is borne out through all of the research. And within the UK, certainly that I have seen, prior to being the borough commander, prior to working for the Chief Constable as a staff officer, I was in the Sexual Offences Investigation Team, and prior to that in the Safeguarding Investigation Unit. So I've done a lot of work around domestic violence and the investigation of it. So I'm quite confident in those figures, and that it is the men are the majority perpetrators in those offences.
So I'm going to Zoom now. I've got Councillor Wheeler who would like to ask a question.
Thank you. I've actually got a couple of questions, if that's okay. So first and foremost, my question is around staffing, and I just wondered where you were in terms of your staffing levels against what you've got budget for, and the number of vacancies that you've got at the moment. The next question concerns applications that come to you for comment. So we've very rarely seem to have any comment back from the police in relation to licensing applications. And I just wondered if there was anyone specifically on point within Surrey Police that actually looked at licensing applications and considered those against the geographical area in which they're being applied for. So I'll give an historic application which related to an external cash point machine in an area with no lighting, no policing, and away from housing and people. That required a great deal of chivying to get any form of comment back. And I think that without a great deal of chivying, there doesn't seem to be any comments coming through. And so I have to confess I've got concerns in that respect, because if you don't comment, it can't be taken into consideration by those bodies or those committees that are looking at granting. The next one relates to, and I'm sure, Alec, you won't be surprised to have me asking this question. Some time ago, but I think shortly after you were first in post, we met and we discussed HGVs. You have since then met and discussed the provision of a camera and the possible prosecution in partnership, I believe, with Surrey County Council with HGV drivers that breach the limit. Other organisations which you researched yourself and looked into seem to be able to move much faster with this, and I just would like an update, please, on the progress, so that those of us that spend our spare time clocking and recording HGVs and individually writing to companies in an effort to get them to persuade their operators to behave in a way that is reasonable and also not cost the borough a huge amount of money, because our tarmac surfaces in an area which isn't suitable for an HGV, I'm sure, is slightly different to the surfaces on the M3, but it feels like we need the surfaces on the M3. So if I could have an update on that, please. So it's staffing, licence applications, staffing straight vacancy rates, licensing applications, and HGVs, please. Thank you.
No problem, thank you. So staffing wise, we are over establishment deliberately with our PCSOs, and there's a fairly fluid situation with those at the moment. So we have some PCSOs who will shortly be leaving us to join as PCs, some which might be moving to different boroughs, but we look to try and backfill them, and we have 2 new PCSOs joining us shortly who will be going through that apprenticeship scheme. So we kind of stay on top of our PCSO staffing numbers. With regards to PCs, we have a vacancy for 1 at the moment. One of the challenges that we're facing is the pressure on our response teams and the number of officers that we have there, and our ability to release them from these other roles to come into different roles when they are at critical staffing numbers. So we have 1 vacancy currently for a PCSO, a PC, sorry, in our neighbourhood team. With the licensing applications, I'm really surprised to hear that, because I would think our licensing officer, Rab Carney, would be reviewing those. So if you've got any examples or any come up where you're meeting a difficulty, please share them with me, and I'll make sure that they're getting done. And we also have the cumulative impact policy, which was renewed recently in Camberley, which would help shape some of those licensing decisions and those applications. With regards to the HGVs, it was my understanding that Surrey County Council had taken primacy on progressing that matter, and I had withdrawn slightly from it. So I'll have to go back to them and find out what's happening and touch base with you outside of this meeting to provide an update.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
David?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's actually about the Surrey Heath Partnership Plan, which is under this agenda item, though we haven't actually touched on it. And it's the thing there about the Ask Annie campaign, which I think is an excellent idea. As far as I'm aware, it actually started in the States, but you had to ask for a certain sort of cocktail in order to trigger the same response. It's just here, it says Ask for Annie campaign. If you click it, it goes to Ask for Angela campaign. Just curious, why wouldn't it be better to have a constant name across the country? So women in this situation didn't have to try and learn a new name, you know, they just knew who to ask for. Just curiosity.
Yeah, my understanding was it was just Ask Angela. I wasn't aware of.
The link says Ask for Annie.
The information that I've seen previously would only indicate it was Ask Angela, but yeah, we don't want people being confused. We want them to be able to walk into any bar in the country using the same name to get the same response.
Thank you.
I think we've got all the questions that have been put to you answered. Can I thank you for coming tonight? It's been an excellent evening with all the questions and answers and the updates that you've given us, Alec. And we look forward to seeing you again in the near future. Thank you very much. And do feel free to go when you wish. Thank you. Members, we're now to turn to agenda item 7, which is to receive a presentation from Alan Hitchcock from Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, councillors, thank you very much for inviting me along here tonight to give a brief presentation on Neighbourhood Watch. I feel... sorry. While we're waiting for the screen and the IT to work its way through, just like to mention the car that was stopped in Bagshot by the local police. The owner didn't even know it had been stolen. Correct. Mm-hmm. So it goes to show how easy it is, how quiet they are in doing it. As you can see on the screen, this is, I've started on Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch because I'm aware of obviously the time, and I'd just like to share our vision. I mean, our vision is a society where neighbours come together to create safer, stronger and active communities. Our mission is to support and enable individuals and communities to be connective, active and safe, which is incorporated in our well-being and minimises crime. Our values: in all our work and relationships, we will be relevant, accountable and inclusive. We aspire to be. Neighbourly, we aspire to be good neighbours. We bring people together, community focus. Inclusive, we are welcoming to all people. And we are proactive. We are active within communities and we are relevant in today's world. I say that today's world. When Neighbourhood Watch was formed in 1982 under Maggie Thatcher's government, we went on to have somewhere in the region of 9 million people who were active watches. Unfortunately, that figure is now down to about 3 million. But I'm glad to say here within Surrey Heath, we have one of the largest in the whole country. We have nearly 10,000 members, active members of Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch. And we're very proud of that achievement, and also we're very proud of the fact that we can obviously support our local neighbourhood team and the police. We are active within communities and we are relevant in today's world. Now that means obviously going out, knocking on doors when we could, recruiting as many new watches as we could, as we can. We are dependable, Sorry, I missed that. Go back to the left, is it? Sorry. Oh, there we go, sorry. We're dependable, caring, respectable, approachable, and supportive. So we can talk to anybody we are. We can get on with everybody, really. We have no barriers. Collaborative. We work as a team, in partnership, and within communities. And last year, definitely, was a success in that we actively engaged with the local team, local police teams. We did an anti-burglary operation within Bagshot area where Alec produced a letter and we went round and did the drop-in, and we dropped it in areas where we felt that the house was in complete darkness, and this was like early evening, 6, 7 o'clock. We had 21 of our coordinators actually out on the ground that evening, and I believe that by the end of the year, the actual reduction in burglaries within Bagshot was 85%. So it goes to show it does work, and we are very supportive of the police, and we are looking forward to shortly restart proactive operations, especially with the catalytic converter thefts and the stealing of the cars. Again, we just got to get the message out there. Get a Faraday pouch. They're about £8. That's all it takes. You spend 80 grand on a car, and you don't spend £8 on a Faraday pouch. Or, as I said, a locking. If you leave it outside in your drive, you need the old-fashioned clamps. It's a deterrent. It's not going to stop them, but I mean, they may just move on to the next one. I mean, I'm sure there must be some reason we are being targeted, because obviously we're in a nice, lovely area to live in. A lot of people got nice, expensive cars. But anything we can do to help, we will. So this is obviously Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch ourselves. Volunteers supporting the police to reduce crime and make Surrey Heath a safer place to live and work. And I firmly believe it does. The support group coordinates activities, disseminates information to each of our watches, and currently there's 14 of us on the support group. I am actually the vice chairman and area coordinator for Camberley, and also the Facebook moderator. So if anybody would like more information, please come and join our Facebook page. And because everything that goes on, especially from the police to local Facebook pages, Surrey Heath Beat, we relay it straight away. There may be a slight delay at the moment. I'd just like to mention that this morning we had a meeting, and our current chairman, who only took the position in March this year, Reverend Larry Bain, for those of you who know him, has now moved on, or he's going to move on to a new position in a black country, apparently. So unfortunately he's going to have to stand down. But the good news is at the meeting, we're having an extraordinary meeting next Thursday, where hopefully a new chairman has already put their name forward, and we can't see for any reason that person won't be elected. So therefore, that's good news. We'll have continuity. I will remain as the vice chairman, because for that reason, for continuity. Watches, neighbours talking, sharing information, promoting good citizenship and greater public participation to prevent crime and antisocial behaviour. The Bagshot, obviously, operation we did goes to show that. I mean, 21 people just turning out in a cold, damp night just to go around delivering letters, etc., was very commendable. Raise awareness of crime and crime patterns. Again, online, text, telephone-based scams, well and physical crimes such as burglary and antisocial behaviour. I think the majority of crimes at the moment, which we're seeing, are the telephone scams. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. We obviously try as much as possible to encourage people to get these call blockers. And again, there are organisations that offer them for free, but unfortunately, like everyone else, we can give all this information just like Faraday boxes and Faraday pouches. We can't force people to actually get them. During the pandemic, we did have obviously difficulties, like our quarterly meetings face-to-face were cancelled. We were unable to print distribute our quarterly newsletter, which is the Heath Watch, which is just a 4-page document giving the overview of what's been happening over the last quarter. Fundraising and public awareness events were cancelled, unable to get out and meet people, obviously lockdown. More people relying on the internet but unaware of the risks. So again, there was people using the internet, but the risks were there. But of course, more people were getting scammed using the internet. How we overcome these was obviously we started into the new technology of Zoom meetings, and we got the police involved as well. So Alec came along, the local officers to answer the questions as they would have done in St Mary's Church. Obviously, greater reliability on the newsletter going out electronically, and we found that worked great, which obviously saved us a lot of money because, again, we have to pay for them. Although Neighbourhood Watch itself is a charity, we at Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch is all self-funding. So my battery's running low. Okay. We supported our neighbourhood coordinators throughout the pandemic. We updated our website, increased Facebook, and launched a Twitter feed as well, so trying to come out into the 21st century. We joined COVID Champion Scheme also, so we came away from the crime area and back into the community event. So myself and one other, Tim Tostervin, I'm sure you know, he also joined and became a COVID champion. So all the information we got through there on COVID obviously went on to our Facebook page as well. I think it should be okay. Brushes, yeah. So, yeah, provided a series of stay safe online guides, information, etc. by email. One of the major tasks we did throughout the whole lockdown was actually replace the entire Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch yellow signs, brought them up into the 21st century, which obviously was quite a lot of cost, but worth mentioning there, our sign man there, Reg Ward, who turned 80 last Saturday. So we're looking for younger members at the moment. He informed me today he took some signs down, but his wife sat in the car and watched him to make sure he didn't fall. I don't think that's actually on the health and safety. So we warned him that he cannot be doing this sort of thing at his age. So we're looking for younger members. So I will be putting some out on Facebook because we've got 5,500 members on there. Not all Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch members, by the way, but they do live within the community. We are obviously indebted to the local council for all their support, especially on the funding side as well. The lottery, we get money from the lottery as well, and I'd like to thank every one of you for that support, because without it, we just couldn't function. Having said that, as the my laptop was actually just blown, so it's probably time to close the presentation. As I'm aware, it's we've gone over the top, so no, don't worry.
You sure?
Okay. On that note, again, thank you for inviting me, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Alan. Interesting report again. And it's really good that you've got so many volunteers and so many areas across the whole borough that are involved in your neighbourhood watch scheme. I'll take any question from the, yeah. Paul.
Thank you, Chairman, and I think, am I? Great. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for that presentation. Big fan of Neighbourhood Watch. Ever since I've lived in this borough, since 2003, I started up a watch at Dettingen Park in Deepcut, and it's been very successful. And some friends of mine, Attia Fard in Mitchett and Stuart Black in Frimley Green, are trying their hardest to sign up as many streets, because it really does work. There's no doubt about that. Couple of suggestions, if I may. One, you said about young people and getting them involved. You might want to tap into the local Duke of Edinburgh Award scheme, because they're always looking to get volunteer opportunities for their kids, and there would be that, putting up those signs and all that sort of stuff would be right up their street, I think. But secondly, I gave quite a bit of money, I raised some money for Neighbourhood Watch for a CCTV scheme in Mitchett, Frimley Green and Deepcut, and matched that with my members' community allocation at Surrey County Council. Now, you've got 6 county councillors in Surrey Heath, all have access to £5,000 each every year. And there's one of them sat over there. So my advice to you is to tap him up for some cash, because I know for a fact he's got some to give to good causes locally. And every single councillor in this chamber gets access to, I think, is it 1,000 or 500 quid a year? All, I am certain, will be delighted to chuck your way for such a great cause. So make sure you tap all that lot up as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Sorry, can I just one? Yeah, thank you, Paul, and thank you for your activity as well. You were obviously mentioned dispatches this morning by Alan Dixon. So, yeah, welcome back from your holiday. And, yeah, thank you for your support. And again, to all the councillors, if you do have access and find yourself that you have problems spending it, please contact our accountant, Tim Tostervin, who will be more than glad. We're actually getting watches who, in the past, used to pay to become members of their watch, and they used to pay for the signs. And they have these funds, and recently we've had people saying, look, we just don't want these funds anymore. Maybe only £200 or £300, but they've actually donated it to Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch. And we also got a scheme called Friends of Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch, where just normal residents, if they want to, they can donate £25, £50, £100. And again, we've got at least 4 or 5 of those doing it, and they do it on a regular basis. So funding is key for everything. And again, thank you so much for your support. Thanks, Paul.
Councillor Betton.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Just a comment, really. I have a keyless entry car. If I keep the key in the pocket with the mobile phone, it doesn't work. So I keep the car key by the phone by my bed. Easy peasy.
All I would say is, yeah, I've got the exact same, not problem, but yeah, certainly the car, if my key's in my pocket with my mobile phone, it will not open. However, if it's up in your bedroom, I think you find it might do. If you just place it by the bed alongside it, it's actually got to be touching like mine do. Or do you put your key on top of the phone? You put your key on top of the phone. Have you tested it?
No, because the key's by the phone part of the day.
Yeah, but have you gone out to your car and see whether it'll open?
No, but you have to be within a metre.
Well, okay. But again, I assure you, you need it inside a tin, a sealed tin or a Faraday pouch. So the advice is,
Hawkins.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure you remember I'm a Neighbourhood Watch coordinator, and I have been for a long time now. I don't like to admit as to how long. I haven't noticed any new signs go up, sort of not in our road, but perhaps he snuck up and down the ladder that quick. I didn't see it happening. But, and I'm not sure I would agree with Councillor Deach, sort of youngsters doing a D of E award, sort of clambering up a ladder and replacing signs. I'm not sure what category. I know they do lots of volunteering, because both of my son and daughter, in fact, she got a gold badge, but I don't think that going up ladders was sort of in any of those. My question is, I wonder if we've had a lot more or new residents come in with the road, sort of people come and go, and I think people are now more interested. If you could send me through so I could print out, you know, the formal sheet to invite people to join Neighbourhood Watch, because I think the more people would be interested. And as I say, quite a few people have left the area, and clearly there's no point in keeping them on the list. So I think, is it Anne Bing? I have tried to contact her, but for some reason it all goes a bit odd, the email thing, and I've got to put a code in, I haven't got the code, and in the end I just give up. But if she could contact me and send me through the template so I could print out and just do the whole road again, I'd be grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly do. We tours, Reg keeps a map of every single sign in the borough and has done for the last 7 or 8 years, and that is his pigeon. And he has actually, together, I said to him, if he comes into Camberley, I will go round Camberley with him. And we went round, and we may have missed 1 or 2, but certainly on the major roads and most of our watches, which are active watches, unless you can tell me the exact roads which require replacing, then we'll replace them. We have the signs, we have the overlays.
I'll send you a message afterwards.
Please, yeah, thanks, Ray. Thank you.
Rice.
Thank you, Chair. It's just regarding the keyless car thefts. And it's kind of a question for both of you, and I'm not sure if you'll have the answers. What are the manufacturers of these cars actually doing about this? Because this seems like you've got to put it in a tin, in a box, in your spare bedroom, just to protect your car. And I'm just wondering, are the manufacturers of the cars, because if this is a clear fault with the technology, I don't know if you know if there's anything that the manufacturer's actually doing about it, other than just holding their hands up going, oh well.
I think really the only information I have is that certain cars, certainly the very high-end ones, certainly the Mercedes, do have a special setting, which, again, if you read the manual, it will tell you where you can actually switch off the actual keyless entry anyway. But like most things, I mean, my manual's 600 pages. Are you going to really go through that to find it? But the manufacturers, they're obviously well aware of it, and until they can come up with a new code or whatever, I'm afraid we're unaware. They're certainly not going to consult with us. But it's the future. I mean, they're going to stop producing normal cars soon and all go electric. So, no, we don't know, but we just have to be aware. Faraday pouch. Not yet, but I'm considering.
They are looking to, they are already developing. I mentioned the ones which go to sleep when you put them down, so they only start sending that signal when they detect motion. But there's loads, there's hundreds of thousands out there without that technology already. But I don't want us to get only hung up on keyless method of entry, because there are other methods. So if you've bought a second-hand car, make sure you change your code, because again, in order to clone a key, you can buy that equipment very, very cheaply, and it takes minutes, less than minutes, seconds to pop it in the device and get the key cloned. And then you can just turn up at your leisure and drive it off. So again, there are lots of mechanisms. Try and encouraging people to think about those and keep themselves safe.
Just on a follow-up, just from Surrey Heath B, I was wondering would it be possible for you to, and with Neighbourhood Watch, to send out any social media that you are putting out about it, like you are, send it to all the councillors, send it to the marketing team of the council, so we can get it out get it out into the community groups that you may not have access to or you may not know exist. So I'm just wondering, just to get that information out as much as possible.
Absolutely. I've been in contact with Rob, who's one of the community support volunteers, to get that out through the Neighbourhood Watch alert system, and I've been in touch with our media department already to draft something so we can get that out on our Facebook pages. But yeah, absolutely.
And again, with 5,500 members of our Facebook page, which is Surrey Heath Neighbourhood Watch, anything crime-related goes straight out as soon as we receive it, as soon as we pick it up from whatever source, whether it be Surrey Live, Surrey Police, Surrey Heath Beat. If it's crime-related, it goes straight out.
members. I think everybody's made comments or asked their questions. Alan, can I thank you on behalf of the committee for excellent presentation again and answering all the questions that have been put forward to you. And I'm sure we're all going to show that much more interest in what you're doing. I certainly will be doing. I know one lot of people that do want an estate that wants to set up Neighbourhood Watch. So be coming back in contact to you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So again, you're very welcome to leave whenever you wish to. And we look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very
Alec.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members, I'm going to turn back to page 9 of the agenda, and on page 13 as well. At the bottom of those agendas, you will see there were recommendations. I purposely didn't do it at the time because I didn't want to sort of stop the flow of the meeting. It's agenda item 6, page 9, and under little 3, the recommendation. So this was the presentation from the commander. The committee is asked to consider the presentation in relation to Surrey Heath and any future steps which members would wish to recommend to the executive and or council. Are there any recommendations you would wish to come up with? Or are you all happy?
I think it sounds like they've got everything under control, Chairman.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to recommend anything.
Okay, you're happy with that then? Okay, so then we'll turn to page, it's the item, agenda item 7, this is the Neighbourhood Watch item, page 13, item 3 again, and the recommendation is the committee is asked to consider the presentation in relation to Surrey Heath and any future steps which members would wish to recommend to the executive and or council. Again, is there anything you wish to recommend? Yeah. Richard?
Well, I think they've taken on board everything we've said and all the questions we've had. So it is really just to take on board what we've said and to crack on.
Yes. Yes. No. Okay. Thank you very much. And then we're going to move to item 8, which is the committee work programme, which I think you've all received via your computers. And this is to consider the committee work programme for the 2021/22 municipal year. And again, on page 3 of that, you will see the 2 meetings on the 30th of November 2021 and March 2021. Did you wish to go through this with us?
The only thing I will mention, members, is following the chairman's briefing, there were a number of amendments to the work programme which the chair and vice chair suggested and we agreed on. One was to bring a lottery update for noting to the next meeting, and then across the next 3 meetings we would also try and bring a number of organisations including the Hope Hub, Camberley Alzheimer Cafe, Chobham Football and Chobham and Berrymead Football Club and Bisley Village Hall. And we'd also be looking to see voluntary support North Surrey next municipal year.
Josephine?
Thank you, Chairman. I wondered if it'd be possible to have Surrey Search and Rescue No, we haven't had that, well, not that I know of, we haven't had it for some time. When I was chairman of external partnerships, they came ably supported more than by the wonderful Councillor Deitch here. He was my vice chair. Well, I've got to butter him up sometimes. We had Surrey Search and Rescue, and I think that was a really interesting presentation. And it's something that doesn't come across very often. I think we were very lucky to get them, and I don't think people are aware of the excellent job they do. So if we could get them, I think that would be interesting to have.
Yeah, it was just to say that Accent Peerless, it's not Accent Peerless anymore, is it? It's only Accent now, whatever they're called this week. I think we need to get them back on a very regular basis. In fact, I would like to see them at our next meeting, actually, with an update, because we're going to be into the winter then. And I want to know what they're up to. Even if it's only just a short update, I don't expect chapter and verse like they gave us tonight. I just want to hear where they're up to, if that's all right.
They are down for the 30th of November to come back again. And
Thank you, Chair. Just to reassure members, at the Chairman's briefing, we did, both Councillor Chapman and I did say we want to see Accent Housing at every meeting, because we raised the point that we gave them the reprieve when they announced that Access Europe came in and they got rid of the legacy. We gave them that time off from coming to committee, but there was starting to show fallback. So we have been very clear that we want to see them at every meeting.
I'm just curious as to why we're asking a football club in to give a presentation. Because, you know, I'm not a massive fan of football myself, so I don't want to be seeing football clubs at every meeting in the future, or rugby clubs, or whatever. I just wonder what value that brings to the committee, if you may. Thank you.
yeah, if I can, to the committee. Looking at page 5 of that Annex A, under Community Grant Awards, you will see all sorts of Frimley Cricket Club, etc. I personally asked for this, and I thought it would be a good idea to get some from the rural end, some representations from the rural end of the borough, and that's why we were suggesting.
So these are people who have had grant funding?
Community grant
I understand.
funding.
Okay,
yes,
fair enough. Thank you.
It would be good to have them in, I think. Yes.
Can I ask for the judo club to be brought in? Camberley Judo Club, just to see. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you.
Again, I think that would be really interesting to hear from us, particularly as they won a Olympic medal. Again, you know, I know quite a bit about the judo club, because even the Olympic guys there go round the Camberley schools after school training the students. Our grandson has got a 10-year-old, he's got loads of belts already. So I think it's really good that we hear from these organisations within the borough. So that's why I got the football club and that on. Yeah, yeah, it's good, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Okay. Yeah. I'm jumping in the gun. So we're really being asked to agree this programme that we've got before you. Are you in agreement? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Oh yes, with the amendments that have been suggested. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And can I thank the officers that have attended here tonight as well, and to the IT guys that have been here to help us. I think it went very smoothly, actually. I was actually rather dreading it, but it has gone very smoothly. Thank you very much. Have a nice rest of the week in this glorious weather.
Just to, in respect to Councillor Visor's question, if you leave the ID cards on the table.